Okay, in this presentation we're going to inspect vectors and arrays. So they're called vectors in Julia. In other programming languages they're called arrays. So the point of this exercise really is to build up some code vocabulary, which is very important when you're starting out and getting a good range of functions and commands that you're familiar with, such that you can sort of start to make progress quickly. Okay, I'm using Jupyter Notebooks and I'm also using Julia version 1.6.1. Okay, so let's begin. I'm just going to sort of set up an array here, a vector here, but I'm going to do it in a very long-winded way. Now, this really dovetails with some other videos I've made. I want to set up a vector that has elements 1 to 7. So some people might be familiar with this if they're familiar with R, Python, and so on, okay, or MATLAB. But this is not going to exactly work for us. What is that? That is a unit range. So what we could do there is turn that into a vector. Okay, it's a bit of a long-winded way of doing it, but you know it works for what we want right now. This is what we really want to work with here. Something like this. This is what the type of data object I'm sort of considering here. Now I want to add in some duplicates, so I'm just going to append an array onto the end of that, okay, just so we have 11 elements there and we got some duplicates. Okay, so I just want to work with that for the time being. Okay, so 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 4 6 8 and 9. Okay, so we're just starting off at those at that 11 element vector there. Now, here's the commands I'm going to look at. I'm not going to go into these in any great detail, and in fact there could be more added to the list, but I think just for now, just to get started, that is enough. I don't really have them in any particular order as well, just that I have a sort of narrative created in my head for this presentation, and I'll just stick with that. The first one here is unique. Now, remember that we have an 11 element vector, okay, with duplicates. So suppose we want to remove the duplicates. There we go. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. Okay, it becomes a 9 element vector. Okay. But we want to make that permanent. We want to permanently update A such that it is only those distinct unique elements there. So we just include the exclamation mark. Okay. Now A is permanently set up like that. Okay. When it didn't have the exclamation mark, it was just temporary, just so you could see it. What it might look like if you were to make it permanent. Okay, so this is created as a permanent 9 element vector now. The duplicates are removed. Okay, let's just actually look at the type there of A. The reason is that this is actually something you should be familiar with, this typeof command there. Okay, so it's a vector integer 64 alias for array integer 64 1. Okay, now the reason I'm just going to mention that is because that gives us similar sort of information, more or less, to the command summary. Now, summary is a very useful command in R, but it does something else completely. It gives a statistical summary. Here, this is just a sort of a description of what A is, okay, in Julia, okay? Not like R at all. It doesn't give a mean or a median or anything like that. Okay. So ndims, now this is a single element, a single dimensional vector, so it's got one dimension, length, okay, and it has length 9. Okay, that's fairly useful to know. Okay, so a couple of interesting ones here. This is what is the last item in A. Well, we can actually get that out with last A. Okay, now that also would gives work in the way same way as a end, a brackets end. So it's just a sort of handy little extra one there. Okay. So let's get the sum of A, all of the elements of A, 45. The cumulative sum, which is a 9 element vector. Okay, so this is the cumulative sum. So it just successively adds them all up. 1 plus 2 is 3. 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 4. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 is 10. Sorry, 1 plus 2 plus 3 is 6. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 is 10. And so on. So this is the cumulative sum. Okay. Now, the next one is sequential differences. Diff. Okay. Now, A is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the sequential differences there are all 1. Now, just remark, it is the sequential differences for n items. There are n minus 1 sequential differences. Okay. So that means for A has 9 items, that means the differences, there are 8 sequential differences. In this case, they're all 1. Okay. So just let's look at another example there, just to make it a little bit easier. So here we have, I'm just using B. B is 1, 4, 7, 15, 21, 34, 56. Here, 3 is the difference between 1 and 4. Here, the second 3 is the difference between 4 and 7. And 8 is the difference between 7 and 15, and so on. Okay? There's 7 items in B. That means there are 6 sequential differences. Okay? A couple of easy ones to finish off with. The maximum of A, just the maximum value. Let's try that out for B. It's 56, I think. Yeah. The minimum of B is 1. I think that's also the minimum of A, so I won't do anything with that. We can reverse the order of B if needed. Okay. Now that's a temporary amendment, but can we make it permanent? Now, B is permanently reversed using that exclamation mark. Okay, there we go. The product and the cumulative product of A. So we had sum and cumulative sum. Product is the multiples. Okay, and there we go. Cumulative, or the product there of A. So if we multiply out all of those 9 numbers, we get 362,880. Let's see how that calculation was made. 1, 2, 6, 24, and so on. In this case, it's like the factorial, but that's just because of the way the numbers I chose. Okay, I've chosen for this example, but it's not actually working that way. It's just that I picked that out. Okay, 1 to 9. Okay, I think that's us done. So let's just go back up here. Bit of code vocabulary for those functions there. So if you're starting out with Julia, it's good to know about as many of these as you can so you can piece them all together and really get started. Okay, that's great. We'll leave that there.